Alright, what's going on, everybody? How you all doing? Welcome back to the Fanatical Viewing Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about this new Mortal Kombat movie, the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie. This might be, I feel like every time I say this might be a short podcast. It ends up being a little bit longer than I want it to be, or than I anticipated because I end up going on for longer than I really want, but I do feel like this will probably be a little bit of a short one, or at least I'm going to try to make it short because I don't have too much to say about this movie. So I actually want to see, I'm actually going to look up some of this on the spot because I want like a little bit of context. So I'm actually looking up the movie real quick. Like, I don't know who, first I want to go over, like, the actors, some of the personnel that are behind this movie, because a lot of them I just don't know. I feel like I've seen, Jessica McNamee, I don't know, who plays Sonya Blade. I don't know if I've seen her in anything. Lewis Tan, who played Cole Young, which is a original character they made for this movie, which was bad idea number one, first of all. But I do like him. I liked his character as much as I didn't really care for the show. I did like him in Wu Assassins on Netflix. I really liked his character. His character was probably my favorite character in that show. I feel like I've seen Joe Taslim, who played Sub-Zero, but I don't know. I couldn't recall anything that I'd seen him in. Hiroyuki Sanada, I love him. I think he's a great actor. Let me look at some of these other actors real quick. A lot of these other actors I don't really know. I think the guy that played Liu Kang, or maybe it was Kung Lao. I think one of them was in the, oh shit, I think one of them was in that Power Rangers reboot a couple years ago, which was crap. But a lot of these other characters a lot of these other actors I don't know. Who directed this movie anyway? Let's see. Director. Simon McQuaid? I don't know if that's how you say it. What else has he done? Apparently not a whole lot. He's directed two things. The Nighttime Economy, which is just a video short from 2014, and Mortal Kombat. So this seems to be his first real movie. How old is this guy? He looks kind of old in his picture. I'm surprised he's kind of just now getting into the industry, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, this movie is a kind of a fucking mess. So I saw this in theater, and this movie was always meant to be in theaters. This movie was, this is before, the whole simultaneous, like, this movie was going to be released before this whole simultaneous, not Netflix, HBO Max and theater thing that Warner Brothers started doing for the, the pandemic and all that shit. And it's just, I don't know, it's a little difficult because this movie doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a theater movie. It really doesn't. It feels somewhere between a theater movie and like a fan film. It doesn't feel, it's somewhere in between there. It doesn't quite feel like a fan film. The quality is a little bit higher than that. However, it just doesn't feel quite like a theater movie because there is some weird, like, editing in this movie that doesn't make any sense, which I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but there's like a part at the end of the movie where all the characters get teleported to go fight the prospective bad guys or whatever, and one guy gets teleported onto a bridge, and then the guy that plays Jax gets teleported to that spot like a second later or something. But like, the first guy gets teleported at one end of the bridge facing the other way, but then the next scene when Jax gets teleported in, he is on the same side of the bridge, facing the same way, and then the first guy that was teleported there is just on the other side of the bridge now, but still facing the same direction. It's super fucking weird. And then, like, Cole Young, who's this new character they made for this movie to kind of, I guess, ease people into the movie or whatever with all these characters and everything. I guess maybe they felt like it would be hard for people to understand, you know, this movie with all these different characters. But there's a part where Cole Young finally gets his power, which is fucking weird in and of itself, him getting powers and all this weird shit. It's like they turn into X-Men or something. But like, Cole Young gets his powers and he gets his body armor stuff, and it's like he's actually wearing it in the movie. It's a physical thing that he is wearing in the movie, and they touch it up with CGI here and there, you know, to signify its like abilities or whatever. But there are parts where he's just wearing it, and it shows his back, and you could see like where this vest thing that he's wearing to signify this armor that he gets, because his power is basically like this armor, and he gets like these tonfa fucking things, but he has armor, but you can tell that on certain parts where the camera is behind him and you're looking at his back, his armor is like bending at the seam. You can see where the seam is on his back. It's fucking weird. It's like they just ignored basic editing and like CGI touch-up stuff in this movie. It feels like a hack job almost at times. But these are things that I could almost get past. There's some fucking problems with the characters and the story in this movie. First of all, I understand Mortal Kombat. I'm not the biggest Mortal Kombat fan. I will admit that right away. I'm not a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I don't know too much about it. I'm more familiar with the newer games, not so much the older ones. And I'm not even a huge fighting game fan anyway. So I hardly know, you know, anything real deep about Mortal Kombat to begin with. But there are some things that I do know. Like, it's supposed to be about a fucking tournament. And this is a Mortal Kombat movie with no fucking tournament. It's all the characters just fighting each other outside of the tournament, which I'm pretty sure that, like, that's the reason the tournament exists, so they can do it in like a legit, like, do things in a legit sort of way. But all the fighting in this movie just happens outside of the tournament, and they all start doing this dirty fighting shit in order to take over, you know, the Outworld people do all this dirty fighting shit to try and take over the Earthrealm. And, like, isn't that specifically, like, what the tournament is for? I don't understand why all this fighting and shit is happening outside of the movie. Or outside of the tournament. Like, it's fucking weird. And there is no tournament in this movie. It's like all events, like all these characters, all the fighters for Earthrealm, as I adjust in my seat, the movie is basically like gathering all the fighters for Earthrealm so they can get to the tournament. But the movie never builds up to the tournament, and everyone just ends up fighting outside of the tournament. Like, why is there no tournament in this movie? Why? I don't understand that. And Jesus Christ. And I don't know why they created this new character who's fucking useless, by the way. He's in several fights in this movie, but he either loses them or he needs help winning. Like, he never beats anything on his own in this movie, and he's supposed to be a descendant of Scorpion? Are you kidding me? This character is terrible, and it's written terrible. This character sucks, and I feel like the actor, like I said, I've seen him in Wu Assassins and like a couple other things, and he's typically like pretty fucking good. But the character they gave him and they wrote for him in this movie is just awful, and it makes no sense. Kind of just talking about this movie kind of irritates me, honestly. Like, it's not a bad movie. It kind of does everything you need it to. Like, or you would really want it to, except for the tournament aspect. Like, there's some really cool fight scenes. The fighting is pretty good. All the character designs are pretty good. I don't really have a problem with any of the characters. I thought Goro looked pretty cool. They wasted fucking Goro in this movie, but there's like a line of dialogue in this movie that would allow them to bring him back in like the second movie. But if he got fucked up in this movie, what makes you think he's going to be any better in the next movie? Whatever, they messed up Goro in this movie, but in terms of how he looks and how he sounded, it was fine. Sub-Zero looked great. Scorpion, I think, looked great. I think all the characters looked great. Maybe my biggest complaint in terms of one of the characters might be Reptile. Like I said, I'm more familiar with the newer games than the older ones, but I know in at least one of the older games, but I'm pretty sure it's probably a couple of them, like Reptile is like just a giant lizard that basically walks on two legs. I thought he looked cool in this movie, but I don't think I prefer that over like the Mortal Kombat 10, 11 Reptile, where he still looks like a reptile, but he has more of like a humanoid body. I don't know which one I prefer. Like, I think he looked cool in this movie, but I still think I prefer, just in general, the more humanoid look of Reptile. But that's like just a little complaint, if anything. But I liked all the characters for the most part. I feel like the character of Raiden was a little, I don't know, like he was kind of in this weird middle ground of being Raiden, but some of the stuff he did kind of seemed a little mischaracterized for him. It seemed like they were out of his character. But I thought the actor was pretty good. I didn't have too many problems in terms of the characters. The fighting was really good. I really liked the gore, especially when they do the buzzsaw. That was pretty cool. Especially the way they did the buzzsaw on a character that doesn't really fucking matter anyway, so it's kind of the perfect way to use it. The pacing in the movie is pretty good. But again, like, why the fuck is there no tournament? And then at the end of the movie, all the fighters for Earthrealm are like, well, fuck it. If the Outer World people are gonna start fighting, dirty, why the fuck don't we? And it's like, realistically, I get that. I'd be like, fucking, if they're gonna do that shit, why don't we fucking do it? Fuck them. But in like, where you're trying to make a movie where you have Earthrealm be the good guys and like follow the rules and do things the right way, you shouldn't have them basically stoop to the level of the bad guys. It's I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why they made that decision. And God, and fucking Cole Young still pisses me off because it's the most useless fucking character I've ever seen in a movie. He can't do anything on his own. He never wins his own battles. He always gets help or he loses. Fucking useless. God damn it. What else do I want to talk about in this movie? Kano was great. Kano is the best character in this movie. A character that I don't even care for in the games. A character I've never even played as. I just don't give a shit about Kano. But in this movie, he was hilarious. All the good dialogue came from him. The best characterization came from him. He was just hilarious throughout this entire freaking movie. At least when he gets introduced, which is kind of in the, I would say near the middle to end of the first act, maybe, is when he gets introduced. I will say overall the movie does feel paced pretty well. Everything happens pretty fluidly. Again, I don't know if I have too much to say about this movie, just because there's not... I mean, again, it technically does everything you want it to do. You see a lot of the characters. It shows hints towards other characters, whether they be kind of bigger characters or, smaller characters. The gore is good. The characterizations are pretty good for the most part. I think Scorpion did get the shaft a little bit. I did like how he was brought in at the end of the movie when you see the Scorpion Sub-Zero fight, which we saw kind of in the trailer. I thought that scene in general was pretty good, except when fucking, like, there's a part where, like, Scorpion and Cole Young work together to fight Scorpion. And at that point, I'm just thinking, like, dude, Cole, fuck off. We don't need you in this movie. Your character is pointless. You haven't done anything in this movie. You're written like shit. Go away. All I want to see is Scorpion and Sub-Zero fucking each other up. In this moment, that's all I want to see. Go away. And another thing. Jesus Christ. The dialogue in this movie, for the most part, is okay, but there are some parts that I cannot fucking stand. Just about every word that comes out of Cole Young's mouth is irritating as fuck. And in this movie, he can't act. I think the guy that, played Cole Young, I typically say I said earlier that I think he's typically a good actor. I've seen him in a few things, but like in Wu Assassins, for instance, he kind of plays like a cocky character in that show, and I think he did that really, really well. In this movie, there are parts where he's trying to be sincere and like nice, and I don't think it works. I think his line delivery is terrible. And then there's an exposition scene that we see in the trailer where they kind of introduce the general story of the movie, where you see Sonya Blade is explaining like what Mortal Kombat is and all this stuff, and like the warriors throughout history or whatever. These exposition scenes is trying to be like, history tells of a great tournament. Like, that is cringy to me. That is cringy to me. Like, the fact that Sonya Blade's character actually said those fucking words in that way with like that background music, it's like, history tells of a great tournament. Like, that is so fucking cringy and just, no, awful dialogue. The whole exposition scene with Sonya Blade is terrible. And I like the actress. I think she looked like Tonya Blade, but I don't think she can play. Did I say Tonya Blade or Tanya Blade? Sonya Blade. I think she looks like her, but I don't think she has that kind of badass kind of personality for Sonya Blade. Like, if you watched the animated Mortal Kombat movie that they made last year or the year before, I can't remember, Scorpion's Revenge, which is excellent, by the way. I highly recommend you watch that movie, especially over this. It's pretty fucking great. But if you watch that, Sonya Blade is awesome in that show. Like, I know it's animated, so it's not like you're trying to find a real person that looks like it. But like I said, the actress that plays Sonya Blade in this movie looks fine. She looks great. But like, she doesn't have kind of that, if you look at the animated movie, the lady that voices her kind of has like a tough voice. It's still feminine, but there's kind of like an edge to it. And then the dialogue was so well written for her that it was badass, and you just felt like Sonya Blade was a badass character. But this chick in this movie, I'm sorry, I just don't think she has that badass character in her. I have a hard time with movies, and maybe this is probably going to get me yelled at, and maybe this makes me a little sexist, but there's a very few movies that I have watched where I have been convinced of, like, where you're supposed to have a female character and she's supposed to be badass. Like, I think there's just, like, a lot of women out there cannot pull off that badass, mean personality. Like, there are so many movies that try to do it, and I just don't believe it. Like, every time I see, like, I love the first Wonder Woman movie. 84 kind of sucked in my opinion, but the first Wonder Woman movie I like. It's a good movie, but there are points where, like, Gal Gadot is, like, thinking she's badass, and she makes that face like, yeah, I'm badass, and I'm just thinking, like, she does not look badass at all. And I hate that, like, and I know she's acting, but it's like, I hate that she thinks she's badass because she's so clearly fucking not. And it pisses me off. It's just those little character traits, they kind of irritate me for some reason. I hate when a woman acts badass when she's not. And I think that happens in this movie. I don't think Sonya Blade pulls it off. I don't think she has that badass kind of character in her, which I think is unfortunate. Like I said, it's not just a problem with her. I find this problem in a lot of movies, and I don't even know if I could even think of any female. No, I can. I think Charlize Theron can play a badass female very easily. I mean, if you look at movies like Atomic Blonde or Mad Max Fury Road, excellent movies. Or one of my favorite actors, like up-and-coming actresses. I say up-and-coming, but she's already been in quite a few big films. But Samara Weaving, I think, has pulled off that badassness very well. Especially when you get to the end of, like, Ready or Not, you really start to see her kind of coming into this badass character. And then Guns Akimbo, she's fucking super badass in that movie. She pulled it off really well. But just Sonya Blade in this movie is honestly just a no-go for me. Couldn't do it. I just couldn't fucking do it, to be honest. What else? I'm trying to think here. What else? It sticks out in my mind, though, Sonya Blade's fucking exposition scene. God, it made me so mad. It sounded so cringy, so cliche. It was god-awful. But there are good things in this movie. Like I said, I think it's paced pretty well. I think all the characters, for the most part, look good. Most of them are acted fairly well. Besides, like I said, I have some problems with Sonya Blade, but she's not so bad that it takes me out of the movie or anything. What else? I don't know. I can't really think of anything. Like, the fighting is really good. The gore is really good. The movie technically gives you everything you want. Like, it's a watchable movie. It's fine. It definitely didn't disappoint me, really, because, I mean, it's not like we've had a really awesome live-action Mortal Kombat. Like, the original one, which I think was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, is a pretty good movie. I do like that movie. That is probably still my favorite Mortal Kombat movie up to this point. But, I don't think... Like, Annihilation is shit. This movie is definitely better than Annihilation. Annihilation is a funnier movie, and is probably more entertaining to watch. But in terms of being a better movie, this new Mortal Kombat's definitely better than that. In general, I would say the animated one is probably the best Mortal Kombat movie. Who knows if we'll ever get another one of those, but I would say it definitely is a better, the best Mortal Kombat movie. And this one is just, it's all right. In terms of all the aesthetic stuff, the characters, the fighting, the gore, it's good, but the story the story of Mortal Kombat isn't that great anyway. But, like, they don't even do a Mortal Kombat fucking story in this movie. There's no tournament or anything. The dialogue is fucking cringy as shit. And even, like, what should have been the best part with Sub-Zero and Scorpion, like, is probably... Well, there's kind of two parts with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. You have the beginning portion of the movie, like the first 10 minutes or so, where you see, like, I believe it's in Japan in, like, 16 something or 17 something, and you see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight, but this is Scorpion before he's, like, Scorpion, the general Mortal Kombat story. But he, the first 10 minutes of this movie are really fucking good. And then the last scene is quite good as well with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. I wish it would have been a little bit longer, and I wish Cole Young would have fucked off, but, I mean, otherwise, like, the Scorpion and Sub-Zero stuff is good. Could have been better. The first 10 minutes of the movie, I think, is pretty flawless. That first scene is pretty great. But after that, it's a rocky road. Man. Yeah, I don't think I have too much to say about this movie. It's definitely an okay watch. And if you like Mortal Kombat at all, I would say it's probably worth a watch. The movie's fine. It doesn't really offend me in any way. I feel like if I was... I don't know, I might have to take it back, because I feel like if I was like a real big Mortal Kombat fan, this movie might offend me more, but just as a person who is just kind of casually into Mortal Kombat, I don't really have too many deep problems with this movie. It's just kind of fine. It doesn't do anything that blew me away. Just kind of did everything it needed to do fine, and never really did anything great, if that makes any sense. But it is an enjoyable watch, if anything, just for Kano. Kano is great. I don't know why Kano is the best fucking character in this movie, but for some fucking reason, Kano's the best character in a Mortal Kombat movie. Don't know how that happened, but it happened. But that is all I have to say about Mortal Kombat. This did turn out to be a pretty short podcast, which I am happy about. But yeah, that's it. That's all my thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat. I don't think you need to rush out and see it, but maybe watch it at some point. Maybe if it's like super cheap, or if you can rent it for super cheap or whatever. Go ahead and give it a watch. I don't think you will feel like you wasted your time, but don't expect the movie to blow you away. If you just want to kind of put something on to see some pretty decent fights, some cool gore, then I think you'll like it. It'll be fine. But that's all I have to say about Mortal Kombat 2021. Thank you all so much for tuning into the podcast. Hope you all enjoyed. Next time, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next time. What should I talk about here? Actually, I do believe, if I'm going by my list, the next podcast might be about Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro. In my continuing my podcasts of talking about some Studio Ghibli movies as I watch and rewatch them. But I do know Zack Snyder's new movie, Army of the Dead, is coming out on Netflix. I believe at the time of me recording this podcast, I don't know when this podcast is going to go up. Probably over the weekend or something, but it's coming out this Friday, which is actually, what is today? Today's Wednesday, so it's coming out in 2 days. So I think I'm going to watch that this weekend, and then I will probably try to get that podcast up, about as soon as I can. So that might actually be the next podcast. So look out for the new Zack Snyder one. I still need to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that movie is being released on 4K Blu-ray in like the UK or something like that. So I did pre-order that, since 4K Blu-rays are region free. So I did pre-order that. It should be here in, I think, early to mid-June, because I think it comes out May 25th or something like that over there. And I think it's supposed to be here between like June 5th and June 11th. So I should be getting that. I will definitely do a podcast on that. I know in terms of, Zack Snyder stuff, people would probably ask, why haven't I talked about his cut of the Justice League? That's because I wanted to wait to see it until it came out on Blu-ray, because I don't have HBO Max or anything like that. But I do have Netflix, so I can watch Army of the Dead. I will watch that. I'm kind of in the mood for just a cool zombie movie, so I will watch that. That will probably be the next podcast. But thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed. I hope you guys will be excited for some Army of the Dead. But thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time.